Here follows an extract from my book Artful Designs, available from Amazon. Chapter 22, Part 2. "I've already stapled it to the frame," said Theo. "I don't want to tear the fabric, so you'd better leave it on the frame." "Oh, it'll be fine," said Beth. "You're all professionals here. If you can see to a Constable, then you needn't worry about a plain old Beth Williams original. I change frames all the time." Drew knew that this was a blatant lie. Beth was very careful about removing fabric from stretcher bars once it was fixed, and she rarely allowed the fabric to be stapled. She usually stitched the back to keep the fabric taut, and if one ever was stapled, then it stayed put. "You really shouldn't remove it, Beth. It would be detrimental to the fabric. You'll get holes and it could tear," said Theo. "Rubbish," said Beth. "It's quite robust. I'd like to show these ladies the technique I used on the back. My honour is at stake here next to Mrs. Malkin's immaculate stitching." Beth glanced meaningfully at her brother and then leaned over to pick up the mounted embroidery. "I can't allow it, Beth," said Theo. "You can't risk damaging the fabric out of mere curiosity. I'm a professional and I know. You'll have to trust me." He picked up the embroidery and turned away. "I'll leave you to your sewing group. I'm going to make the most of the time I have tonight. I've been locked out for days and I'm going to get some work done while I have the chance. I can't stand here inspecting backstitch." Beth gave her brother a decisive nod and then stepped away. Finn saw that trouble was brewing and stood up to leave. "Sit down now," James commanded. Theo actually attempted to run but was prevented from escaping by Brian, the security guard. "Theodore Hunter, I arrest you for aiding and abetting in the theft of a Constable painting and for the murders of Rick van der Molen and Sally Bickerton." The rest of the caution that James gave was barely audible under Theo's tirade. "Are you out of your mind?" Theo shouted. "What on earth have you got to accuse me with? You have no evidence. This is madness." Once the attending officers had Theo in handcuffs, James turned his attention to Finn. "You'd better come along too," James said. "You're already under arrest for breaking and entering and burglary. Let's hope you can help get yourself out of trouble by remembering something of use now." Once again, James had to complete his address unheard. Finn was now hurling accusation and blame at Theo. "Save it for when you're at the station," said James. Scott braced himself for similar treatment and Mrs. Malkin collapsed in a chair. However, James walked past them both without notice. As Theo and Finn were being taken to the waiting police cars, Beth seized her embroidery. "The police may not be able to take this further without a warrant, but this is my embroidery. I made it. I can do what I damn well please," said Beth. "Pass those tools over, Scott." Beth attacked the staples with a screwdriver and soon the fabric was pulling away from the stretcher bars. Once the fabric was free, Beth became more careful as she peeled away the fabric and turned the frame over, engrossed with what remained in the recess of the stretcher bars. Acid-free tissue paper sat neatly folded on top of a piece of thin hardboard. Carefully unfolding the tissue paper, Beth revealed a small watercolour study of a cloud formation. James rushed over to the table and was joined by Drew, but Scott dropped into a chair and wept. "You are all witnesses to the fact that this was in Theo's possession and that he was unwilling to have it revealed. The embroidery was given to him unmounted and he himself framed it here, where it has remained untouched until now. Nobody has been allowed access to the museum and so it's impossible that this has been tampered with after Theo himself assembled this frame. This has just been revealed to you all by Beth," said James. "Can I have my Kandinsky back now, please?" said Conrad. There was a glimmer of a smile behind his grimace. He knew he'd been put to the test, but he took it in his stride. For the full book of Artful Designs, available in paperback or as an ebook, follow the link in the cards in the description box or find details on my website at sharonbill.com. Thanks for listening.